Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk into the heart of a medieval castle, not as a noble guest, nor a wandering knight, but as one of the unseen souls laboring in the kitchens, buried beneath the great stone halls, choked by heat, sweat, and smoke, your life dictated by iron pots, scalding water, and the roar of a roaring hearth? What if I told you that you likely wouldn't last even a single day in that world? Before we travel back through the centuries to feel the sting of boiling broth and the suffocating rhythm of medieval kitchen life, make sure to subscribe to NightSleepHub, where history becomes a whisper and sleep follows softly behind. Now, let the fire crackle low and allow me to guide you, not into a tale of war or kings, but into a place far more relentless, the castle kitchen, where the real battles were fought not with swords, but with ladles and aching backs. Picture it, before the rooster crowed, and long before the castle walls stirred with courtly whispers, the kitchen was already alive with movement. The first to wake was often the scullion, a child or servant, barely more than a boy, tasked with raking the cold ashes of the night's fire, coughing softly as charcoal dust filled his nose. No windows lit the room, only the sleepy glow of embers. He worked in near darkness, fumbling with flint and steel, coaxing reluctant sparks into flames that would breathe life into the cold iron ovens and stone cauldrons. Soon after came the turnspit boys, their job as thankless as it was exhausting. These were thin lads, often orphaned or poor, made to crawl inside giant wooden wheels connected to iron rods that spun entire beasts roasting over open fires. The rhythm was endless step, push, like a human hamster wheel, sometimes for hours. Their faces were red from the heat, their breath sticky and shallow. Nearby, the roasting pits were alive with crackling pig and goose, although we'll skip the pig tonight. Instead, imagine sizzling fowl and rabbits turning slowly, their dripping fat spitting angrily into the flames. The heat was relentless, suffocating, rising in waves that blurred vision and burned skin. Cooks stripped down to simple linen shifts, soaked through with sweat, wiping their brows with rough sleeves, never daring to slow. The kitchen master, called the kitchener or mater caw, barked orders over the noise, his voice sharp and seasoned. His word was law, and failure meant humiliation or worse. Beneath him, a delicate hierarchy bloomed: sauciers preparing broths and gravies, bakers slapping dough onto hot stone, fishmongers scaling trout with aching wrists, pastry cooks filling tarts with dates, prunes, or nuts. The floor was never clean. Grease, spilled beer, vegetable scraps, crushed herbs, and chicken feathers formed a slick mosaic underfoot. Rats skittered under barrels, and dogs, if allowed, lurked near scraps. The smell was overpowering: roasting meat, sour milk, woods, garlic, onions, beer, whetstone, sweat, and urine from slop buckets left too long unemptied. But no one noticed. It was the kitchen's perfume. Servants worked 12 to 16 hours, with barely a break, often deafened by clanging pots and shouts. Burn scars were common. So were missing fingers from careless slips, while chopping. Imagine carving meat with a dull blade while 10 people scream at you to hurry. The water used for boiling and washing came in from the castle, well, heavy and cold, dragged up stone steps in sloshing wooden buckets that bruised the hips and soaked your feet. By midday, the kitchen roared at full capacity, preparing for the main meal served around 10 or 11 in the morning for nobles. Trenchers made of stale bread waited to be soaked in juices and sauces. Soups bubbled. Birds were spiced with cloves, cinnamon, and pepper imported at high cost. But the cooks who made them rarely tasted their own food. Hunger gnawed quietly at the workers who prepared feasts they would never eat. By the time the lords and ladies sat at long oak tables, sipping from goblets and dabbing their lips with cloths, the cooks leaned against warm stones, sucking on burnt crusts, staring blankly into the fire. And then the process began, again cleaning, scrubbing, preparing supper. In the back rooms, the slaughterers worked. Chickens had to be plucked, fish gutted, cows flayed. The smell of blood mixed with sawdust and old vinegar used to clean blades. Water was never truly clean. The grease clung to the walls. The floor grew slicker with each passing hour. And as evening fell, there was no candlelit rest. The bakers prepped bread for the next morning, boiling grains and kneading dough with aching hands. Sometimes they were joined by the brewers, boy, hauling hops and barley, his nose full of yeast. Sleep came not in beds, but in corners, sacks of grain, under prep tables, beside cooling ashes. And even then, ears remained tuned to the fire, ready to wake if the flame died or if a rat bit through stored food. The nights were cold, the walls sweating with condensation, but the fire always burned hot, and those who slept too far from it woke shivering. Illness spread easily in such places. Fever from rotten food, infection from knife wounds, coughs from smoke. No physician visited the kitchen. No priest gave comfort. The kitchen was a world of its own. And all of this, the heat, the hunger, the endless noise, was done not for pay or recognition, but for duty. The kitchen was the hidden engine of the castle, never seen, rarely praised, but always expected to run without fail. If the roast was cold, a cook might be beaten. If the bread was too hard, the baker might lose his position. The expectations were sky high, the grace paper thin. And yet, despite all this, there was pride. Cooks passed down knowledge from one to the next, teaching sauces and stews like secrets, experimenting with spices when no one watched, and laughing when a fire hissed just right. They joked in corners, wiped flour on each other's sleeves, and sometimes stole sweetmeats to share in silence. And when the work was done and the kitchen darkened once more, the scullion again took his place by the dying hearth, preparing the fire for the next cruel dawn. He rubbed his hands, his nails black with soot, and stared into the glowing embers, where yesterday's sweat became today's steam. And so the rhythm continued unseen, thankless, hot, dirty, loud, and vital. The next time you picture a castle, remember this: behind every polished banquet, behind every royal feast, there was a world boiling beneath the stones. You wouldn't survive it not for a day, but for those who did, they left behind a legacy, carved not in stone, but in the soot-stained walls of kitchens that still echo with their toil. Let the fire fade now. Let the knives rest. Let the spoons clatter no more. You've walked the heat of the hearth and the shadows of the scullery. Close your eyes now. Drift softly into a gentler time, and sleep deeply. Good night.